My name's Linda Karuga. We're going to look at the online power reading program. I think once you see this presentation, you are going to find that we are unique, that we have something that nobody else offers. The program runs for students from kindergarten through high school. We're going to look at step-by-step procedure. I'm going to have you feel like the student and see exactly what steps you're going to be taking through the program, and then we'll show you a lot of the good features that are offered here, how easy it is to use, and then we're going to look at the types of reports. I think this is what you die for, are the reports, because the data collecting and the record keeping that we all have to do nowadays, it's like you need another day of the week just to keep track of everything. With RTI being where it is now, it's so important that you get good running records, you have good data that you have collected, and that you can pull it up instantly. That's the beauty of this. You just put in a time frame and you get data for that time frame. We're also going to look at how you can provide differentiated instruction for every single child that uses this program and how easy it's going to be for you to differentiate. All right, now you've got your student, beginning of the school year. He's ready to get started on his power reading. He's one of your RTI students. You've got to get him started. He's going to sit down at the computer, and he's going to start reading a passage. He'll just read a couple of paragraphs, answer a few questions, and then it's scored, and then another passage comes up. Very similar to your standardized test where you have an easy passage, and then it gets more difficult, more difficult, more difficult, until eventually you max out and you can't do any better. Same thing on here. He'll read until he makes too many errors to be reading easily and successfully, and the computer will stop. Here it stopped at 3.6. Anthony's in the 6th grade, and he got up to 3.6. Okay, so now we're ready to start reading. Remember, he read at 3.6. The computer will automatically bump him up to stretch him a little bit. So they're going to place him in a 4.1 story. He's going to listen and follow along with this story 2 times. Okay? Now, I want to play just a little sample of the recording of this story so that you'll hear the speed.
Comic book heroes. When I was about your age, I loved comic books. I kept big stacks of them in the basement. I enjoyed the funny ones.
The purpose in the recording, the way it is so that the kids can see and hear the words at the same time. And when they do that over and over, that's when the words begin becoming sight words for those kids. Now, this is the actual length of the story. You had 1 page. This is the 2nd page of the story. This is the first buy-in for the kids. They see the lengths of the stories, and they are so excited because they know they can complete 2 pages. They're literature-based stories. When they start counting those stories, and you watch them, 21, 22, 23, and you defeat them before they even get started. So they love and they buy in quickly to the shortness of the stories. Okay, they listen twice to this story, and then they're going to play the game. And I want you to say it with me. You're going to read the story how many times? 2 times. And then you're going to do what? Play the game. Then you're going to do what? Teacher conference, and then the questions. Okay, so here we go. When the child has listened to and played the game, then it's time to talk to the teacher. This is the screen that will be up for the teacher, and this is the screen that the teacher has to fill in. All right, so we sit down with Anthony, and I ask him, okay, Anthony, how many times did you listen to the story? 3. I type in 3. Now it's time to do a read back first. I have a choice on the read back. If you'll look up here, it says words per minute, yes or no. You have the option, do you want to have words per minute on the story or not? Sometimes some kids are just scared to death when they know they're being timed, and if it's not a necessity every time, you may decide you don't want to time the child this time. Let's say yes, that we do want to get words per minute. So as soon as I click on the yes box, it's going to bring my story back, and it's going to have a start reading at the top. But as soon as you click start reading, the timer begins. He's going to read until he gets to where the symbol comes up, time is up, stop reading. As soon as that comes up on the screen, the teacher will click the last word that they read. As soon as she clicks that word, words per minute is calculated and put into the box on the report. I have been counting the errors while he's reading to me, and he had one error. So I need to put the number of errors in there. So while the child reads, and the way I used to do it is I used to just kind of have my hands on my lap and I'd do my fingers so that I could keep count of the number of errors that they made. All right, now let's say I didn't want to do words per minute because I have a child that they're just threatened with that. So I'm going to click no on words per minute, and this is what you'll see. Now you're going to get the story that comes up, but you can see there's a yellow highlighted word up there. That yellow highlighting indicates the average number of words read for a minute for a fourth grader in a fourth grade story. That would be your average. So you would just tell Anthony, Anthony, I want you to sit down, and I just want you to read to me until you come to the yellow word, and then you can stop. And you still count the errors like you did. You want to also evaluate the expression on the readback. Was it excellent? Was it good? Was it fair? And be very honest with yourself. I mean, you know what a good readback sounds like. Somebody's got rhythm and pace and intonation, and they just sound like like the recordings. That would be an excellent one. Good is where they're reading, but they could sure add some more expression, or maybe they're not pausing, at the ends of the sentence or something. And a fair one is like they're really just reading word by word, and it doesn't have a lot of rhythm to it. Okay, the summary. Most of us will not have a clue what these stories are about. I mean, there's no way you're going to try and sit down and read all of these stories. So to help you out as a teacher, when you come up to this part, you will click on a summary, and up comes the summary of the story. So you will have a small summary of that story that is quick and easy for you to read through quickly, so that you'll know, does this child really understand all the things in this story, or is he just kind of talking about the title? Some kids will retell first until they learn how to summarize, and your little ones retell. All right. Now you have to evaluate, did they give you an excellent summary, a good summary, or a fair summary? Okay, so now we have to decide what that was. We thought it was an excellent summary. So we have everything filled out now except the questions. Now the child goes back to the computer. I say, great job, I'm moving on. I go to somebody else, and he goes to the next screen, which will come up as his questions. The questions are going to look like this. And again, they have the option of having the question read to them or not read to them. So many of our low performers answer questions incorrectly because they have no clue how to read a question. I mean, they can't make any sense of it. So if they hear it, then they can understand more what it's asking. So let me play one of the questions for you so you get a feel. Dan is the person who's recorded the questions, and he has such a happy voice that I think kids will just click the sound just to hear how happy he is. He just kind of puts you in an up mood.
Hi, this is Dan, and I'll be reading you the questions for the story Comic Book Heroes. Fact versus opinion. Question 1. Which of the following sentences expresses an opinion? A. Clark Kent was Superman's secret identity. B. Batman's belt was packed with gadgets. C. Wonder Woman had an invisible airplane. D. Who wouldn't want to be like Superman?
Okay, I mean, isn't that a good voice? If your kids want to go back into the text and read for the answer to the question, they can. It's not a test. We don't want to test the kids on every story. We want to teach them how to answer the questions and teach them how to find and seek answers. So that will also allow the kids to make that decision to go back or to go forward. Okay, now, once they hit the submit button for their questions, it scores them and adds their score here. The child got 4 out of 5. Then it gives you a tally for the entire story. He got an 82% on that story. This is the exciting part. This is what makes us unique. We have topic choices. Now, this is only for 4th grade and up right now. The program is for kindergarten through 12th, the whole program. But the choices, the topic choices, are for 4th and up. So those kids, we know those kids are the most difficult to motivate, right? Because they've been failing for so long. They will kill when they get to these choices because it's their heart. They love this. So they look up here, and these 5 categories are going to change each time. It's not going to be those same categories. So the kids are also going to learn categories. I mean, they're going to learn just different types of reading and what's out there. So that tells the child, Anthony, select 2 choices here, and he picks sports and nonfiction. As soon as he's selected his 2, look what happens. He now is given 4 choices. He has 2 choices under sports, and he has 2 under nonfiction. But look at the readability levels. In September, he's reading on 4.1 when he gets his first choices. Now, the way it's going to work is they're going to read a couple, 2 or 3 stories, and then the choices will come up. Read 2 or 3 stories, and then they'll have choices again. So they know they're coming, and they know it's not too far away. So here you've got 2 4th grade level stories to pick from, and you also have 2 5th grade level stories to pick from. So if a child is truly interested in The Great Fisherman or Edgar Allan Poe, they're going to pick one of those and stretch themselves a year or more above. And it gives them the opportunity to test themselves out, but it also allows them to read purely for interest. All right, now, this child picks ski lessons. It's at a 4.8 level. He goes through the same process. Now, say it with me. You read it 2 times, you read it, answer the, do the conference, answer the questions. Y'all are good. You're better than I am. All right, now, this is a treat. These are wild cards. The wild cards are a little longer in between times that you get it. You'll have your 2 or 3 stories you read, and then you get 2 choices. 2 or 3 stories you read, and you get 2 choices. 2 or 3 stories you read, wild card. This is the love. Wild card means 5 categories, and you pick one so they can pick their favorite category. Now look, he gets 5 choices. Look at the range in the readability level. All right, in November, he's reading at 4.9 level. He's got a 4th grade level story, builds in a little bit of safety for him. You've got 2 5th grade stories and 2 6th grade stories. He truly can step out of his comfort zone and try a higher level story. Yeah, it's wonderful. All right, so here he picks Pizza for Everyone at a 5.9 level. Same process. Read it twice, play the game, read it once, conference, and the questions. Okay, now this is the kind of report that you can generate from the kinds of stories to see what kinds of stories the child has read and how successful they were. This one, I think, says it all. The blue lines, these are the stories that the computer gives Anthony automatically. He doesn't have a choice. That's what he's given. And notice that the computer bumps him up all the time, keeps him moving up, up, up. If he starts scoring 90-some% several times, the computer's going to jump him a little bit higher, and vice versa. If he's making too many mistakes, the computer's going to slow down the bumps and not bump as far. So the computer will adjust according to the way the child is scoring. Now, the yellow bars, these were where he was given 2 choices of categories. Okay? The red one is the wild card. Notice that when you can pick and you're interested in something, you're going to pick something on a higher level and you still do better because you buy into that story. Look how well he did on this. Now, I want to see what this story was, and I want to figure out what he did on that story. So all I have to do is click on the red bar, and up comes that story with that summary that you saw before, all of his scores, his words per minute, how many errors did he make, 4 out of 5 right, and so forth. So you'll be able to see, and you can click on any of those bars and get that same information of the story. The individual total report, now this is a great RTI report, or for your IEPs. Up here, you're going to put in the dates that you want to pull the report for. So if you want to pull it for about your grading period, you can. If you want to pull it for a month or 2 months or 6 months, whatever you want to do, you just put in the dates. And it will tell you how many stories Anthony read in that time frame. And it's also going to give you a beginning reading level for the beginning of that time frame and an ending reading level. It's going to list all the types of questions that Anthony addressed when he answered the questions about the story, and it's going to tell you exactly his percentage of accuracy. So for main idea, he's got 100%, so that's a good category for him. As a teacher, and I'm working with one of my students, and I see a lower area, something that's maybe 60% or 70%, I'm going to address that, and I'm going to work on that area with Anthony, because obviously that's a weakness, that's a weak area, and he needs to learn how to address those questions. It's going to give you the information on the story, the read back, the number of errors, the average, and the average expression, the average summary, and your average total score would be 86.3 for Anthony. You also get your graphs for fluency and for the reading skills. This is the skills report. We're going to look at story number 3 that he read. Again, we put in the time frame that we want to pull the stories for. For the third story, he got 80%. Where you see the green check marks, those are questions that he answered correctly for that story. The red X is one that he answered incorrectly. I'm curious why he answered that question incorrectly, and I want to find out more about it. I click on the red, and up comes a box that shows you the question and the correct answer and the answer that Anthony chose. So if you can start seeing a pattern developing on the way he's answering vocabulary, you will be better able to help him figure out how to work better with vocabulary. Isn't that cool? I mean, I love these reports. Okay, here's a progress report. This one the parents like and the students like, because they can see progress. You can pull the dates, whatever months you want to have reflected. We've got September, he was reading at a 4.1 all the way through, and up here at June, he ends at 6.4. It's going to give you the first page of one story from each of those time frames, so that your parents can actually read that first page and see what types of stories the kids are reading and the level that it's written. And the kids just look at that and say, boy, look, at September I was 4.1 and now I'm 2 years higher in June. For them, that's just proof of the pudding. And they remember reading those stories, so they know they did them. This is a group summary report that as a teacher, this one has all of your students listed on the same report. So you can collect your data for those kids. So here, in this group summary, again, you put in the time frame that you want reflected, and the teacher Smith here has 5 students working on the online power reading program. I've enlarged one line so you can see the numbers a little bit easier back here. It's going to take Maria. These kids are all in 7th grade. She finished 16 stories in this time frame, in this 2-month time frame. Her average reading score is 91%. Her beginning reading level was 2.8. Her ending reading level is 3.3, so she made a gain of 0.5 during that time frame. Then it's going to take your whole class and average your whole class at the bottom. And your administrators will have access to these screens, so they can also pull up data to check to see how certain students are doing. When you turn on your computer as a teacher and you fill in your student data, you have your student's name. Now, what do I want to send the student? Do I want to send the student tinted screens to be used? If they're using a colored overlay and benefit from it, they need a tinted screen. So that will give you access to send them some colors. They will experiment with the colors, and when they find one that they think works, then they will use that color. Now, the next thing you have to decide is, do you want a Spanish introduction for your child? If you have any ELL students and they oftentimes will sit down and they listen to an introduction in English, they read a story in English, and they don't have a clue what's going on in that story. So we do have the ability to have Spanish introductions. So if you want the child to listen to a Spanish introduction that will tell them a little bit about what the story's about, and then they continue to read in English, but at least they have that introduction. So you would decide yes or no to send them the Spanish introduction. I want you to hear a little bit of introduction in Spanish so you can see what that sounds like.
That green stuff. Robbie es un conejito en el cuento. A Robbie le gustan los vegetales, pero no le gusta comer espinaca.
Do you want the reading level to be displayed on the stories? And on the report, oh, it'll be on the reports, but do you want them on the stories? And the Lexile measure. Do you want that on the stories, yes or no? That's up to you. So power reading really is easy to implement, and it's so effective.